So today, we're going to dive deep into the world of clinical hypnotist Luke Howard. He's got this totally maverick approach to addiction, and he claims to fix the unfixable. But here's the twist. His whole process, it doesn't start with therapy. It starts with a challenge.
So, right off the bat, this is what he hits you with. This isn't some gentle, welcoming invitation. No, it's a super bold claim that just sets the entire tone. He's not just offering to help, he's literally promising to fix what people are convinced can't be fixed.
Okay, so what makes this guy so unconventional? Well, you've got to understand that his entire persona, the way he looks, the way he talks, it's all a very deliberate strategy. It's designed to completely shatter a client's idea of what therapy is supposed to be.
Just look at this contrast. Your typical therapist is all about building rapport, you know? Gentle questions, unconditional acceptance. Howard, he does the exact opposite. He knows his clients have sat in front of a dozen therapists in suits and told their story over and over. So by showing up tattooed and asking a jarring question like that, he completely cuts through their rehearsed script. It immediately creates a new, totally unfiltered dynamic.
And this quote right here, this is basically his whole philosophy in a nutshell. He's not trying to be a better therapist. He's trying to be a different therapist. By owning that space, he gets around all the defenses a client has built up against traditional therapy. It's like he's creating a whole new game from the get-go, one that the client doesn't know the rules to.
So this whole being different thing, it's not just for show. It gets baked right into his screening process. It all starts with a phone call. But the point isn't to sell his services. It's to see if the client is willing to sell themselves on their own change.
I mean, just think about how wild this is. Instead of convincing them to hire him, he actively pushes them away. He'll say something like, look, you've been to rehab, you've seen other shrinks. Why on earth do you think I'm going to be the one to work for you? And then silence. He just waits. The client has to be the one to fill that silence, to convince him why they're ready. This completely flips the power dynamic. The client has to start believing in the process before it even starts.
And here's another huge piece of that first call. He completely reframes what addiction even is. He just strips away that big, scary, all-powerful label. To him, something like a heroin addiction isn't really that different from, say, chronic anxiety. They're both just unwanted patterns running on a loop in your brain. By taking the mystique out of it, he makes the problem feel solvable, not like some lifelong disease you're stuck with forever.
And while he's on that anti-sell call, he's listening very carefully for these red flags. Why? Because every single one of them is a signal that the client is trying to dump the responsibility on him. If he's their last hope, well, then it's his fault if it doesn't work, right? If they're buttering him up, he knows that can flip to blame in a heartbeat. He knows that real, lasting change only happens when the client is ready to own it, not outsource it.
Okay, so let's say a client makes it through. They've fought for their spot, they've convinced him they're ready. Now the real work begins. But before any hypnosis happens, he lays down a really clear framework. He calls them the 3 invitations. Think of these as the ground rules for changing your own mind. Be present means, hey, you're not a passenger here, you're the driver. Listen to hear is basically asking them to just let the information wash over them without overthinking it, to bypass that critical, analytical part of the brain. And my favorite, put knowledge on a shelf, is a simple request. Just for now, forget everything you think you know about your problem, because, let's be honest, if those beliefs were working, you wouldn't be here.
All right, now we get to the really wild part of the session. This is where he starts to pull things straight out of a stage hypnotist playbook, all to build belief and create a very real, tangible experience of change.
I know what you're thinking. It sounds kind of crazy, right? Using what looks like a party trick for serious clinical work, but trust me, there's a very specific and pretty genius logic behind it. This isn't about entertainment, it's about demonstration.
So here's how it works. He'll have the client experience something small but undeniable, like their fingers feeling like they're glued together. And in that whoa moment, when the client realizes, my mind just did that, he immediately bridges it to their actual goal. He'll say something like, see, if your mind can do this just based on my words, imagine what it can do with your sobriety. He's giving them real physical proof of just how powerful their own mind is.
And this all builds to the final and maybe the most important move he makes. After the change happens, after the client feels that shift inside them, he does one last thing to make sure that change sticks, and more importantly, that it empowers them for life.
So he might let the client see him as this expert, this wizard during this session,
But at the very end, he completely flips the script. He deflects all the credit. He makes it crystal clear that he was just a guide. They were the ones who actually did all the heavy lifting. He hands 100% of the ownership right back to them.
And this is so much more than just being humble. It's the whole point of the entire process. See, a client who leaves thinking he fixed them is still dependent on someone else. But a client who leaves believing they fix themselves, they own that victory forever. And that success, I beat this, becomes a brand new core belief they can use to tackle any other challenge life throws at them.
Which leaves us with this final question to chew on. Luke Howard's method is abrasive. It breaks all the rules, it throws the conventional therapy playbook right out the window. But if the end result is a client who takes total ownership of their life and feels powerful enough to do anything, well, it really makes you wonder what the goal of therapy should be. Is it about following a set of rules, or is it about getting a result that truly, deeply empowers a person?